Hi guys, Xanadu
Powered
here
by
from
Riverside
Nat-Lilly.
FM.
Just a reminder to pop into our website for any info on products mentioned in any of our podcast episodes. We are consistently updating and adding to our product range. One of our new offerings is proudly from Curious Earth. They've got a lovely range that we've introduced onto our store, so please have a look. Also, remember to like, subscribe, or share. If any of our content resonates with you or with anyone you feel that needs to hear it, reach out, let us know, share it with them. Lastly, a reminder just to keep an eye out for our educational material that we'd be launching soon. Will be available via ebook format, via our store, as well as local digital book suppliers such as Amazon. Yes, and that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. Now back to your regular podcasts. Love and light. Hello, all, and welcome to Unfiltered Soul Shifts. My name is Xanadu, and welcome to our space. Sure, quick disclaimer, guys. So, if you've been here before, you'll know that I often say I'm not a guru. I am just a person that has gone through and is going through a journey, and I use this space to share what I've learned, what I am learning, in the hope that it will help someone else. Let someone else also know they're not alone, that there's other people that are also going through similar. And just to have a space where we can share, right? And the reason I'm starting with this disclaimer today is because I've had a fairly heavy week or last few days, and the topic that we're going to be sharing today is a little bit of a heavy one, okay? And the only reason I say it's heavy is because of the thinking behind it. So today, what I'm going to be chatting about is really toxicity, right? So toxic isn't just out there, it's in here too. And this word toxic gets thrown around a lot. It's got negative connotations, and hence the reason I said, okay, it's a little bit heavy. But I've really been challenged as to what this means to me and how I can identify certain traits or behaviors that can be aligned with this word toxic. So I'm not a fan of the word anymore. Not that I was, but I'd rather replace it with something else. And I'm still looking for that word. But essentially, sometimes it's patterns that we're trying to heal from. And it can be essentially ours, right? Today, we gently just explore self-awareness without shame, because healing begins when we get honest with ourselves, and it begins when we get honest with some kindness. So to start us off, what is toxic really? I'd like to redefine toxic. I don't have the right word, but it's not just bad vibes or manipulative people. It's the unconscious survival patterns that we pick up because once upon a time, we all had to protect ourselves. We all had to go through something. So think about situations where you feel you needing to control everything to avoid being hurt, or where you're blaming others because accountability felt dangerous, avoiding tough conversations because conflict was unsafe, or even criticizing first before someone else can hurt you. These are bad traits. They're not necessarily bad person traits, but they can be when they spiral out of control. Ultimately, it starts out as nervous system responses. It's your body doing its best to keep you safe, and then you react. So how do we spot our own patterns, right? So let's pause a little bit here. We all have patterns that can become toxic. Thinking back to those scenarios that I gave earlier, it's again just awareness. Being aware is the first brave step. And I learned this, yes, through my own behavior, but also it was something I tackled in one of my sessions. And yes, I love my therapist. She really gets down to the crux. She doesn't let me run away. And it made me realize that this is one of those areas I need to be accountable for. I need to take responsibility for. And this was a hard episode to do, or a hard session to do, because you have to come face to face with some of those demons, right? And I'm already very hard on myself. I criticize myself really, really hardly. But then this is, again, just a part of me that I need to heal from. So again, being aware is that brave first step. Questions you can ask yourself, whether it's when you're doing your own reflection or when you're in a situation and you notice this behavior coming up. Ask yourself, are you reacting or are you responding? Because reaction is, quick. It's off the bat. Response is usually after taking a pause, listening, and then giving an answer. Is this pattern that I'm developing or I'm in, is it protecting me or is it limiting me? Protection, usually gut reaction, right? Gut reaction, you are reacting. Can it be limiting? Yeah, because you're not responding in a way that shows that you understand or that shows that you've grown. What emotion are you trying to avoid by doing this? What emotion are you avoiding by reacting? If you've ever people please, just to keep the peace, guys, I've done this. Or have you ghosted someone to avoid discomfort? You've used toxic patterns too. And guess what? It's human. There's no shame in recognizing a pattern. That recognition is the beginning of reclaiming your power. So how do we shift, right? How do we shift so now find we're aware, we've recognized, how do we shift so that it becomes healing? More so for ourselves, what do? How do we move on from shame to change? An easy roadmap, as we started with already, has been awareness, right? So aware, catching the pattern in real time. When you are in that pattern, when you are reacting, do you recognize it? Do you stop yourself from it? How are you aware? So catch that pattern in real time. Then, whether it's when you are in that situation or afterwards, to unpack, ask yourself, what was it? What was this trying to protect me from? Okay, so in other words, be curious. Awareness, curiosity. Third one being change. Offer a new response either in the moment or after, or the next time you catch yourself. Offer a new response that feels safer and more aligned. So tools that I've touched on that you can use to unpack would be journaling, so tracking your patterns without judgment. It allows you to go back and see, okay, now I actually see how this is a pattern. How am I going to write down and commit to yourself how you're going to respond better? Nervous system practices is another way. Regulate before reacting. So the moment you feel yourself reacting again, just take a step back, breathe, regulate, bring yourself into that space, and acknowledge that you are safe. And then a little bit of mindfulness, observe without spiraling. So notice that you are in this pattern, but don't go further into it. And just a reminder after the fact, remember to forgive yourself, self-forgiveness, because growth isn't always linear. We all fall off, guys. We all fall off of this little horse that we're on, But it's how we shift. It's gradual. And if you remain honest with yourself, there'll be some proper growth and healing at the end. This is what I believe. So detoxing behavior, again, it's not necessarily about the people, right? It's a person dealing with the tools the best that they can. If it spirals out of control, then yes, it could be proper manipulative behavior, especially when the person starts becoming aware and starts doing it consciously. Then yes, that's when we can say toxic person. However, we often talk about cutting toxic people out, but true healing actually asks the question, or starts asking the question, what about the behaviors that you bring to the table? Okay, how do we detox our own behavior? Again, not from a place of shame, but self-compassion. So how do we move on from control to a place of surrender and trust? I start with control because that is a difficult one for me. I'm not going to say I'm a control freak, but I like to feel in control. So surrendering, whatever that surrender is for you, might be that difficult. It might be that challenge. And to trust that the space you are surrendering yourself in is a safe space. And then extending that surrender and trust to the people that can hold you. How do we move from criticism to compassion? So criticism could be our own, being our own harsh critics. Okay. How do we move that to compassion? Is it a word for word? That's something I'm trying. So when I'm like, gosh, I didn't do this very well. Or, yes, I was really crap at that exercise. Or I should be doing better. Should it be, you know what, you did the best that you can. Next time, you can plan it so that the outcome is better. Self-talk is a real big one, right? The next one, how do we move from avoidance to presence? So how do we, instead of avoiding speaking about the hard topic, how do we move to being present in that hard topic? And often, in order to be present, you've got to be self-regulating, and you've got to be, to a certain extent, surrendering, not necessarily because you feel safe, but you feel safe in your own voice to do so. Blame. How do we move from blame to ownership? So blame might be a big one for you, constantly pointing the finger out instead of pointing it in. You know that saying where they say you point one finger out, but there's 4 other or 3 other fingers pointing back at you. So how do we move from the point game to taking ownership for our own actions and reactions, right? And then lastly, how do we move from being defensive to being open? Small shifts that change everything, especially your relationship with yourself. It allows you to find your voice and to find out who you really are, underneath all the noise and all the layers that you might have. So guys, a reminder, we are not broken. You are not your defense mechanisms. It does not make you who you are. You are a whole, evolving human being. And every pattern you outgrow makes space for peace. It makes space for a deeper connection. It makes space for conversation and alignment. It's not about shame. It's about truth, tenderness, and transformation. So until next time, guys, keep it unfiltered, keep it kind. See you in the next one.